Welcome to the Daily History Podcast, where the shadows of the past come alive through the stories we tell. Today, let's ignite the fuse on one of the most explosive events in history, the Gunpowder Plot of 1605. Join us as we unravel the threads of conspiracy that ran through Stuart England, a plot that could have changed the world as we know it. In the early 17th century, England was a land rife with political unrest and religious discord. Under the reign of King James I, the throne was a beacon for Protestant ideology, solidifying measures against Catholic practices. The air of England was thick with whispers of dissent as Catholics found themselves increasingly marginalized, fueling an undercurrent of tension that permeated the very fabric of society. 1603 saw the ascent of King James, the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, taking over the English and Irish thrones. His vision of a single Protestant Britain clashed with the beliefs of the Catholic population, who faced severe penalties for their faith. Harsh fines and discriminations were enacted, pushing Catholics further into the shadows and compelling them to worship in secret. The rift between the crown and Catholics widened, setting the kingdom on edge. The seeds of conspiracy were being sown, and the Gunpowder Plot festered in this hotbed of religious strife. Now, imagine darkened rooms where whispers could determine life or death, where a clandestine whisper could light the fuse of rebellion. In 1605, a group of 13 Catholic men came together, driven by desperation and ignited by a shared objective to obliterate the Protestant monarchy and its parliament. Among those whispers, a conspiracy took form, one that aimed to shake the very foundations of the English throne with gunpowder, treachery, and a desire to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. Thus began the covert gatherings and strategic plannings of what would be remembered as the Gunpowder Plot, a scheme shrouded in secrecy and ripe with the suspense of a nation on the precipice of potential chaos. In the heart of an England wrought with division, the stage was set not for play, but for treason. A group of men, bound by a common cause, disillusionment and anger, gathered under the shadow of power, determined to ignite change in a most explosive way. Among them stood two pivotal figures, Guy Fawkes, a man whose name would become synonymous with the plot itself, and Robert Catesby, the charismatic leader whose grievance with the crown spurred the conspiracy into being. Guy Fawkes, born on the 13th of April, 1570, was not originally a son of rebellion. His start in life was relatively unremarkable, steeped in the Protestant faith, ironic given his eventual fervor for the Catholic cause. His conversion to Catholicism marked a turning point, driven as much by personal conviction as by the time's spiraling religious conflicts. Yet it was his military prowess, honed in the 80 Years' War, that would earn him a place among the conspirators as the man to light the fuse. On the other side was Robert Catesby, born into a prominent Catholic family in 1572, well acquainted with the sharp sting of persecution in a land ruled by a Protestant monarch. His father's imprisonment for harboring a priest left a lasting impact, weaving into young Catesby a narrative of resistance. As the man who conceived the plot, Catesby's brazen ambition was matched only by his persuasive leadership, drawing others to his daring cause. Within the clandestine walls where they met, the plotters were a tapestry of dissatisfaction and determination. Each brought their own story, their own yearning for a Britain that smiled upon Catholicism once more. They moved with a meticulous silence, each step toward their goal wrapped in a cloak of secrecy. The group's dynamism, rooted in mutual trust and a shared goal, provided the foundation for what they hoped would be a sweeping and decisive strike at the seat of power. The conspiracy's core, Fawkes, Catesby, and the others coordinated their plans with precision, aware that the smallest whisper could mean the difference between success and the gallows. They toiled under the cover of darkness, the future of a nation unknowingly resting upon their plot, cloaked in shadows. In the year of 1605, a plan of such daring, such perilous intent was unfurled beneath the very seat of power in London. At the heart of this audacious scheme was a determination to end King James I's reign and re-establish Catholic supremacy in England. The conspirators' weapon of choice? 36 barrels of gunpowder, carefully concealed within the undercroft of the House of Lords. This was no simple undertaking. The barrels, densely packed with explosives, were strategically placed to be ignited during the state opening of Parliament. This grand event was meticulously selected for its significance. It was when the king, his heirs, and the nation's nobles would all be gathered in one place. The plot was nothing short of a masterstroke, designed to decimate England's ruling elite in one fell swoop. Even in contemporary terms, the consequences of such a plot succeeding are mind-boggling. The death of King James I would have created a power vacuum, potentially plunging the country into chaos. The conspirators, led by Robert Catesby and etched into history by the infamous Guy Fawkes, aimed to spark a revolution, instigating a swift Catholic restoration. But history, as we know, takes no prisoners, and the stage was set for something far different from what the plotters had envisioned. In the twilight hours of November 4th, 1605, the vigilant eyes of Westminster Palace's security unearthed a scheme that teetered on the brink of altering English history. A vigilant Lord Monteagle's letter had tipped off the king's men, leading them to scour the underbelly of Parliament. They stumbled upon a peculiar scene, dozens of gunpowder barrels concealed beneath firewood and coal. Standing amidst this clandestine cache, ready to light the fuse that would send the establishment sky high, was none other than Guy Fawkes, a soldier of fortune turned conspirator. Swiftly seized by the king's guards, Fawkes found himself ensnared in the iron grip of justice. Under relentless interrogation, bolstered by the looming threat of torture, his resolve was formidable, initially concealing his true identity behind the alias John Johnson. Yet, within the cold stone walls of the Tower of London, even a will as steely as his began to crumble. His captors, no strangers to extracting confessions, soon unraveled his tangled web of deceit. Under duress, the full breadth of the treacherous endeavor came to light, a damning ledger of names and intent that spelled doom for his cohort. As the reality of their failed coup d'etat sank in, the co-conspirators faced various ends, some in skirmishes against the king's forces, others at the executioner's block. Their conspiracy had rendered them traitors in the eyes of the crown, and the punishment was severe. Guy Fawkes himself, after a grueling trial, met his demise on January 31st, 1606, though he leapt from the gallows to break his neck, seeking a swift death over the brutalities of being hanged, drawn, and quartered. This foiled rebellion, steeped in gunpowder and insurrection, would echo through the annals of time as a symbol of extremism thwarted and a monarchy unshaken. The aftermath of the gunpowder plot reverberated through the very core of English society, leaving a particularly stark impact on the Catholic community. After the king's narrow escape from assassination, the government moved swiftly to enforce a regime that saw Catholics become targets of intense persecution well beyond the immediate backlash. In the wake of the thwarted plot, Parliament passed a series of draconian laws aimed directly at Catholics. The 1606 Act to prevent and avoid dangers which may grow by popish recusants was among these. It not only restricted Catholic worship, but also prevented Catholics from practicing law, serving as officers, or even living within 10 miles of London unless they swore an oath of allegiance to the crown. These anti-Catholic measures drove a deeper wedge between the monarchy and its subjects of differing faiths, broadening the gap between the Protestant establishment and the Catholic minority. Trust had been broken, and it reflected clearly in the stricter societal and governmental policies that followed. This tense period contributed significantly to the politicization of religious identity in Britain. The cultural fallout of the gunpowder plot was substantial too. One particular legacy that took hold was the institution of Guy Fawkes Night, also known as Bonfire Night, annually observed on November 5th. What began as a form of anti-Catholic propaganda with effigies of Guy Fawkes being burned transformed over the centuries into a more light-hearted community event, featuring fireworks and bonfires. But even as the night became a festive occasion, celebrated by people of all backgrounds, it retained undercurrents of historical reflection and social commentary. The effigy, once a symbol of treachery and the target of public fury, also became a vessel for contemporary dissent, allowing individuals and communities to project their grievances onto an age-old scapegoat. Guy Fawkes' Night evolved into a complex interplay of memory and modernity, where echoes of a 400-year-old conspiracy continue to shape the ways in which Britons engage with the themes of authority, tradition, and rebellion. And so, the Gunpowder Plot, unsuccessful in its intentions, found enduring success in its influence on English law, society, and culture. It's within these annual fiery commemorations that we are reminded of the plot's long shadows, stretching out across history, touching upon our present, and continually shaping our collective understanding of power, belief, and the price of dissent. As the tale of the Gunpowder Plot weaves through the fabric of time, it garners a mythical stature, transcending the raw details of history and becoming entwined with the threads of narrative and drama across centuries. This evolution is palpable in literature, where authors have spun tales rich with intrigue and shadow, drawing upon the imagery of masked plotters and clandestine schemes. In the realm of film and television, the Gunpowder Plot has ignited the imagination of creators and audiences alike. Thrilling portrayals often emphasize cunning, the looming threat of discovery, and the fervor of conviction that fueled the conspirators. Each representation adds a layer to the story, sometimes blurring the lines between the actual planners and the legendary figures they've become. Cultural commemorations like Bonfire Night ensure that each November, the plot remains a vibrant part of British folklore, filled with the crackle of fireworks and the effigy of Guy Fawkes against the night sky. Yet, this dramatization holds power beyond mere entertainment. It shapes our collective memory of rebellion and terrorism. Through the lens of the plot, tales of resistance and the state's response to such threats are examined and re-examined, contributing to an understanding of historical and modern governance. The Gunpowder Plot, as it has been remembered, presents a dual narrative, one of caution against the potential extremes of subversion, and one of the state's capacity for control and persecution. Now, as we reflect on its influence on contemporary views of governance and resistance, the plot's legacy continues to resonate. It reminds us of the prevailing tension between authority and the governed, the power of ideology, and the lengths to which some will go in pursuit of change. The echoes of 1605 reverberate in today's world, challenging us to question the nature of justice and the dynamics of power. And so the Gunpowder Plot remains more than just a story from the past. It is a persistent whisper in the conversations about our present and future. As the embers of our tale fade, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Daily History Podcast. If our journey through the smoky corridors of the past has sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts below. And remember, the suggestion with the most likes in the comments will be the spark for one of our future episodes. Until next time, keep the flame of history burning bright.